Across the world, consumers are grappling with soaring food prices, tied in part to the rise in costs of staple ingredients like wheat. Here is a look at wheat prices over the last 5 years, according to macro trends. The grain hitting an all-time high earlier this year, shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine. Kelsey Kernstein joins us now live with a look at the trajectory we can expect for wheat prices in the near future. Kelsey.
Rutabaga, from cereals to pasta, wheat is in almost everything we eat. Well, now economists calling the prices dangerously high. Farmers tell me extreme weather this year could make those costs jump even higher. Many farmers across the nation with high expectations to produce more this year than ever before with the war in Ukraine and supply chain issues. But extreme weather across the nation is either drying up or washing out their crops.
When you don't have the bushels to sell, you don't have the income. High price of wheat doesn't really do a farmer any good that is in a drought situation.
That's Kent Lawrence, a Nebraska wheat farmer who says he expects to produce only 30 to 50% of his crops this year, blaming dry weather and a severe drought across more than half of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma.
It puts a lot of stress and worry and concern.
Other farmers in North Dakota, a top producer of spring wheat, facing heavy rains, flooding their crops. According to government data, North Dakota is expected to plant the least amount of its farmland on record. Despite the circumstances, according to Lawrence, he says Americans will have enough wheat and enough to eat.
Having an active supply of wheat in this country is not going to be an issue.
But he says expect those costs to rise exponentially well into 2023. Already, the U.S. average for a bushel of wheat in 2022 to 2023 projected at $10.75, up from a $7 average last year. Breads, pastas, cereals, all expected to rise in prices. To add to the cost, input fees for farmers are higher than ever. Lawrence says it's the worst he's seen in his 40-plus years in farming. And economists say the first to feel the pinch are the most vulnerable. And the United Nations has already warned the war in Ukraine could throw millions into famine. Rutabaga.
It's a serious situation, Kelsey. Thank you. And wheat farmers in the heartland need solutions to boost their bottom line. For that, we are joined by David Clevenger. He is a farmer and the former chairman of the National Wheat Foundation. Good morning. Thanks for being here so early with us.
Good morning.
I'm sure you're hearing a lot from concerned farmers. Who is it having the most impact on? Is it the war overseas or the drought at home that is affecting the U.S. as a whole most?
Well, Rutabaga, it's kind of a combination of both. We have not seen any measurable rainfall in the Texas Panhandle since October. So our wheat crop in Texas is about 47% of normal. With that, coupled with Ukraine and Russia, they produce about 30% of the world wheat supply. So with that, it's kind of a double whammy. And with the drought, it's just ongoing. And we will see prices recover down as farmers are very productive. But this year, the prices are up because of the drought and the war.
Yeah, and I know you all work so hard. Put in context for us what this means for the average American consumer. We're going to obviously feel those prices because you have no choice but to pass them on to us, correct?
Well, that's true, but we are price takers. And so with the average cost of bread being about $2.58, there's just a little over 10 cents of wheat in a loaf of bread. So the major costs are, not burdened by the farmer. We produce a very good crop, and we're going to be there next year, mainly because we've got crop insurance to fall back on. That's not a profitable thing by any means. You can only insure about 65% of your crop. So you can see we would much rather produce a crop. But just unfortunately with the weather, the way it's been this year, it's just been tough to produce.
So have you had to make changes to overcome these disadvantages, or is this something as a farmer you kind of hope doesn't happen, but you're prepared for?
Well, you can't, you just, when you have a good crop, you save up for years like this. We had a drought in 2011, so we did survive through that and were able to produce crops for this year. A lot of the issue has been, wheat prices have been not profitable in the past years. So a lot of farmers have moved into other crops that have more return on the investment. So if we see wheat prices continue to stay in the upper ranges, we'll see more production of wheat. And these input costs, like you mentioned earlier, they are a big factor. And so even though wheat prices are high, it doesn't mean that farmers are really making a lot of profit, because our input prices have gone up 200 to 300%. And so it takes these kind of prices to make it being stable. The reason why these programs we have in the United States, we do not need to be reliant on any other country. And I think we can see with the Ukraine-Russia situation how when you're reliant on other countries for your food supply, it's very dangerous. So we need to make sure that our farmers are going to be here year in and year out, so that our nation can produce food for our people.
And what do you need from the government on a local, on a state, on a federal level to help you?
Well, there's crop insurance is a key. It kind of is allows farmers, when we have bad years, to just kind of be able to hang on to move into the next year. Our farm programs are based to help farmers stay in business, so that our people in the United States have the most affordable food supply of anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and what have you had to make changes over the past year to overcome the drought and the war in Ukraine and inflation and all the changes that have been happening?
Well, you just kind of survive it. We don't have any control of the weather, obviously. So we just try to do what we can to make sure we've gone into no-till farming, which does not disrupt the land, and it saves moisture when we do get it. And so that type of farming, we kind of switched that from past years to make sure that we are, producing with a minimal amount of moisture. And we've seen that it does help. But we've had 101-degree temperatures with 40-mile-an-hour winds and 5% humidity. And even though we do have irrigation, it doesn't matter how much irrigation you have. Those type days, it's hard to keep up. And it's just like watering your lawn. It's the same thing. You can't put enough water on when you've got those kind of temperatures, wind, and low humidity.
Well, it sounds stressful. We wish you the very best. Keep doing all the hard work to give us our food supply here in the United States. And we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.